I'm Jeannie Lauren Dowden for Conduit News. As many of you know, there are several runoff races happening now that are coming out of the Republican primary election March 3rd. One of those is in House District 6 between Cody Rogers and Hunter Rivet. Joining us today is Cody to tell us all about that race and what's coming up next. Hey, Cody.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm really happy that you were able to join us today. I know that our viewers really wanted to hear from you, especially just during the regular primary race. So I'm happy that you're here to talk to Conduit today and to tell us about District 6. So for those who aren't familiar with you, first just tell us a little bit about yourself, your roots there in Northwest Arkansas. What does House District 6, the counties, what does that involve? And then talk to us about being a small business owner.
Yeah, sure. So, a little bit about myself. Born and raised primarily in Bergman, which is just north of Harrison. Um, was born to Billy and Brenda Rogers. My dad was a pastor for 55 years. So, grew up in the church all my life. Been a Christian since I was a kid. Really focus the way we live our life based on the gospel. Um, So graduated from Bergman High School in 1999, and then went to work in 2000, early 2000 with FedEx Freight, like American Freightways at the time, actually. A couple years later, met my wife Alexis, working there as well. So we have been married for going on 23 years this summer. The two of us have three kids, three boys actually. Kason, who is 20, Ryder, who's 17, and Foster, who's 11.
Wow.
So we've been raising three boys. We got them spread out a little bit there. They're obviously kind of our life circle around them
Yeah.
for the most part, but they're a lot of fun. Yeah, so we um, we moved to Omaha a few years ago. Whenever we actually started our business here, so we own a wedding venue here just outside of Omaha, just kind of right off Highway 65. So it's between
Mhm.
Branson and Harrison. We started this back in 2018 when we started it. Once we got it up and running, we felt like it was best to move close to the business, so make it so much easier for us to operate and manage it. So we also run an Airbnb here as well for people that's part of the wedding package or part of the
Yeah.
wedding group. So yeah, so we've been doing that. I left FedEx Freight. My wife and I both left FedEx Freight a few years ago, but I recently started back this last summer back at FedEx Freight. So done a little bit of different things throughout my
Yeah.
career with a little bit of in sales when it came to technology and construction. So, but yeah, that's kind of just a little bit about myself. As far as the district goes, District 6 is the northern part of Boone and Carroll counties. So it really kind of goes right down the line for the most part of
Okay.
Highway 62. Gets the northern part of like Green Forest. It captures all of like Carroll, Eureka Springs, Bearville, all the way over to Beaver Lake, and then comes all the way over across just north of Bergman and
Yeah.
captures Lead Hill and Omaha and those areas. So um, it's it's a great district. We've lived in pretty well in the district or in the county since all of our lives,
Hmm.
pretty much, other
Oh,
than the short time that I spent some time in Branson as a kid. But
yeah. That's awesome.
Alexis graduated from Green Forest as well, so we've got ties to the Carroll County also. So
And it's such a beautiful area. It is so pretty up there.
it is.
And probably having a wedding venue. That's awesome.
It is, yeah. That's kind of our what our wedding venue focuses on or circles around is the view. So just a little
Yeah.
backstory is our venue here sits where we used to have a fire tower for the
Hmm.
county years ago. So it's got one of the best views around. We actually overlook all of Carroll County or a big part of it. So we can see every bit of that and some of Boone County as well from the on the east side.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about being a small business owner. I think you said that y'all started that in, what did you say, 2018? Is that
Yes, ma'am.
right? So
Correct.
2018, and you have y'all have had a small business now in Arkansas for several years.
Mhm.
What is it like here in Arkansas for you as a small business owner regarding the regulations or taxes or just being able to operate freely? How do you view it here in
Yeah,
Arkansas?
so we're fortunate that we do live, our business is operates out in the country or out in the county. So we
Yeah.
don't have any of the city regulations that others have to deal with. So We did though, however, even when we were building our venue, kind of run into some state regulations. Just even a wedding venue that we had to put in a water faucet, something
Mm,
that we hadn't planned on, but state regulations required us to actually put a water faucet or water fountain
okay.
in the venue. So the crazy part about that, unfortunately, is whenever COVID hit, they made us unplug it, shut it off, and close it down. So you get restrictions like that they make you put it in, but then as soon as something like that happens, they make you take it out. It's
Yeah.
it's not something where it's not something we had planned for. We made it
Yeah.
work, but unfortunately, it's one of those things that really doesn't get used a whole lot. Most people have some other type of drink in their hand and not using the water fountain. But
Yeah, well, and doing things like that, I'm sure it can be burdensome on small businesses. And probably, like you mentioned, COVID, those additional restrictions and regulations
mhm.
and things, all of the hoops that businesses had to jump through, I'm sure was burdensome and lots of different ways, not just
it,
financially.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we started in 2018. That's when we started our building. We finished in 2019. So 2020 really was our first year to be fully open and functional. So here
Okay.
we were all excited. We had, 50 weddings or so lined up, ready to go. And
Mm,
then COVID hits.
yeah.
And, so yes, we have an outside venue, but we're also an inside venue as well. So it put a lot of strains on a lot of weddings, unfortunately. It's what we could offer, how we kind of had to change what we could offer and how many people could be here for people's weddings.
What did that teach you coming out of the pandemic, being a new small business owner? What lessons did you learn coming out of that? And did you think, you know what, man, I would really love for this to change or for our legislature to tweak some of these things? Did you experience anything like that?
We did. I think we could see, a lot of us could see that, when it came to COVID, if you had connections with powers to be or upper management, upper
Hmm.
control, those people were somehow considered essential and
Mm,
allowed to stay open, allowed to
yeah,
operate. Businesses like ourselves were forced either to close or to
yeah,
change drastically how we operated. For some businesses, that meant that they closed their doors and never reopened.
yeah,
We were very fortunate that a lot of people were willing to reschedule their weddings or push back to a later date. Obviously, that was still a hit financially because we weren't able to fulfill those dates in that year and had to make some changes there. But ultimately, yeah, we saw that easily the government can have too much power and
mm,
overreach. And if you're not connected in the right ways, and sometimes that can actually hurt you pretty badly.
yeah. At Conduit, we focus on economic issues, economic freedom for all Arkansans. And I thought it was really interesting that on your social media page, you were talking about you're calling it your pocketbook plan. It
Mhm.
talks about the elimination of different taxes, ways to support small businesses. Walk us through that plan so our viewers can understand more about your economic policy.
Yeah, so I think for Arkansas, we pay too many taxes the way it is. I think there's ways that we could eliminate some taxes, reduce some taxes. The state income tax. For us to compete with other states around us, we need to find ways to reduce those state income taxes. We need to find ways of cutting out the waste, obviously, and
Mhm.
the kind of the unresponsible fiscal spending of our funds that they currently have.
Yeah.
The more money we can keep in the pockets of Arkansans, the more that we can put that and use that money where we need to and where we see fit. Um, as far as property taxes, unfortunately, right now you never truly fully own your property. You're constantly paying taxes on something you've paid for, and for some people, they've paid for it 50 years ago. So
Yeah.
someone like my mother, who's a widow, has to still every year consider how much of my property tax is going to go up. How do I find a way of paying for that additional expense that comes up where I may not have did anything different, spend anything differently, but now my property taxes are going up. So I think we
Mhm.
need to find ways of cutting those out
Yeah.
and reducing that. There's other ways with businesses. I think we need to do away with the business licenses that's required. To require someone to have a take out a license just to run a business. I don't think that's stuff like that. We need to cut that out of our government and put the control back in the business owners.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think those are all wonderful ideas. Something else that's on a lot of people's minds, we're going into the fiscal session and there's conversation about learns and obviously, Conduit is for school choice. Conduit advocated and really supported the Learns Act when that went through in 2023. I think that there are some concerns regarding just paying for it, year over year and what that looks like. Talk to us about your stance on school choice, on those dollars following the student, and then um, just your perspective on the issue of funding it.
Sure. So, like I said, I had three boys. One of them's already graduated, but the other two are still in public schools. They both go to Harrison School District. They were going there while we lived kind of in the Ridgeway area, so they didn't want to change that whenever we moved. We've had good luck and good experience with Harrison schools. So we take advantage obviously of the school choice in that situation and allow them to stay there, even though we don't live in that district anymore. But quite frankly, I think it's great that parents have the ability and the right to choose where their child goes to school and learns, and,
Mhm.
and who's teaching them. Not every child learns the same. We've
Yeah,
seen that for years. That some kids need different type of services and different type of teachings. Some work better with other teachers than what they currently have.
yeah,
So I think it's important, to let the parents have control of that because they, quite frankly, know their child the best. Understandably, there may be some parents there that are unfortunately taking advantage of that situation, but ultimately, we gotta hope and pray that parents are trying to do what's best for their own child. As far as the money following the student, whether that's going to homeschool or going to private school, I think it's only right that it does. For too
mhm,
long, those parents have been paying their same share of taxes, but then maybe paying their own cost of private school or homeschool.
mhm.
So it didn't make sense in the past where you were paying the same taxes, but yet your kids weren't actually going to public school.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's a little bit of offset there that we're going to have to kind of catch up with. But I think when it comes to our students, our children, and their learning, that should be where we're willing to pay and put money into. It may take a little time to kind of figure that out, but and obviously there's some adjustment period there, but I think it's the right way to do it. Obviously, the Learns Act had some other great benefits as well for
mhm,
raising teacher pay for here in the state of Arkansas. I like the incentive program that it gave teachers, the bonus package that they can now earn with doing a better job of teaching.
yeah,
Like I said, I do have kids in school, and there are some things and concerns that we've had with our kids in public schools. There's times where they're coming home and they're saying, "Well, hey, we watched this movie today, or watched this
mhm,
TV show." And
mhm.
sometimes those aren't TV shows or movies that we would typically even let our kids or our
Yeah,
boys watch at home. So that's concerning when they're having freedom to watch things like that, or it's actually being put
mhm,
on for them in
mhm.
classrooms. And even some of the teachings that's being taught sometimes. We had a situation with my youngest son recently where what they were studying didn't really fall in line with our Christian beliefs. So we talked to the teacher about that and discussed our kind of differences there. We were able to kind of find a workaround where we could still fulfill the assignment and
Yeah,
do what he needed to do for his literacy, but yet we were able to kind of step aside of what was being taught that we didn't agree with.
yeah. Good for y'all for doing that as parents. Something else during session and in the legislature that has had a lot of attention, and I know I've said this before, and we said it during the 2025 legislative session, was that economic development ruled the day. It was
Mhm.
like one bill after another, and it was just like a bottomless pit. And one of those bills that passed is going to be on the November ballot. And at Conduit, we call it the Corporate Welfare Districts Bill. I think probably the state chamber and others will call it, this is going to be wonderful. It's going to create jobs and stimulate the economy in your local community. Where do you stand on economic development and just the use of tax dollars being pumped into the economy? And some would argue that a lot of these bills open the door for less transparency, accountability, and um, allowing the government to pick winners and losers with our dollars.
Right. Yeah. So I'm firmly against that way of thinking. I don't think the government should be in the business of trying to pick winners and losers. I don't think they should be trying to give tax breaks and tax credits to certain industries to help them thrive. I think what we ought to do is try to lower taxes across the board for all Arkansas business owners. Let's
Mhm.
make it more of easier for someone to start a business in this
Yeah,
community and help them to to grow. I mean, we don't need to be trying to pick and choose who has the benefit or who gets the upper hand in this situation. We should let the community take care of that for us. I mean, that's what free
yeah,
market's all about. So, the government's not in the business of creating jobs. That's not their role. That's not what they're here for. It's we can create our own needs and our own companies to fill those needs based
yeah,
on what the community wants.
yeah. I think so too. Something else regarding communities and what communities want, and let's just briefly touch upon this. And then I want to hear what you have to say about when you're talking to voters there. But there was a bill that passed in this last legislative session regarding industrial development authorities. Conduit opposed it then. We warned everyone about it. It still passed, and the Northwest Arkansas Council, as an example, they've been working with quorum courts to try to get that through, most specifically in Washington, Madison, and Benton County. Benton County passed it. I think maybe they're kind of trying to walk it back a little bit. And then Washington County basically tabled it indefinitely, as did Madison County. Um, what are your thoughts on this? It dealt with eminent domain, and I think that's what's caused the most concern for everyone, and just how it goes into the broader view of property rights. And then also, we're in a rural area, especially where
Mhm.
you are. It's so beautiful there. And, having that balancing act of, yes, there needs to be growth and development because of all of the people who are moving here, but then also we need to protect property rights and this beautiful natural state that we have.
Right. Absolutely. So when you mention that eminent domain, what we don't need is unelected officials or unelected personnel coming in and not having accountability and kind of saying here's what you guys are going to do, here's what
Hmm.
we're going to put in place, and basically kind of take full control and take that
Yeah.
control out of the local communities. Again, I mean, you're basically kind of saying that we're not smart enough to figure this out on our own, or we shouldn't have the right to figure this out on our own.
Yeah.
It's our communities, and we should be allowed to develop it and grow it as we want and see. Not everybody wants to live in the Northwest Arkansas or the big city lights
Hmm.
and limits.
Yeah.
I very much love where we live out in the country with the beautiful scenery around us. I love seeing the sunrise every morning, or
Mhm.
the sunset in the evening.
Yeah.
Um, so again, it really shouldn't be controlled by kind of a distant bureaucracy. That should be completely within the control of the local communities and the people that live there.
Yeah. What about also the wind farms? I was driving to the Boone County Republican Committee meeting, and they were so nice there. I loved visiting with them, and they have a wonderful chair. As I was driving, I was thinking, gosh, it's so pretty. It's such a pretty drive. I love it. But then I glanced over and I was like, oh gosh,
Yeah,
those massive, what do you even call them? They're huge
wind
with the,
turbine. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And I thought, oh, I would not want that in my backyard. And so, when you're talking to voters there, what is their
Mhm.
sentiment about it? Or, are they for it? Are they opposed to it? And then there's places putting moratoriums in. What is your
Mhm.
position?
Yeah. So I think the windmills are just absolutely hideous. I'm with President Trump there. I think when he called them the big green new deal,
Yeah.
they don't make sense. They really don't.
Hmm.
The cost of what they cost to generate or create or make does never offsets what they actually create themselves.
Yeah.
It's just kind of I think without the government subsidies that were given to them, they never really make sense. They don't
Hmm.
produce, they're not efficient enough. They can promise you that they'll produce this type of energy, but we've not seen that they actually ever do. You can drive around Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, and you can see tons of these abandoned windmill farms that are just shut down,
Hmm.
non-operating. They're ugly. I mean, so
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
be honest, they're environmentally, they're dangerous to the birds. They
Hmm.
scare off the wildlife. Again, they're very unsightly. They're noisy for those that have to live next to them.
Yeah.
So again, talking about our business here, our view is kind of the
Hmm.
main steals the show here for our wedding venue. I'm about approximately close to 15 miles the way the crow flies from those windmills, and I can see every one of them from my house here.
Wow.
Um, we're fortunate enough that they're far enough away that they're not that big, but you can still clearly make out 31 or 32 windmills that run across that sky. And I just hated that it interfered with that beautiful scenery that we had there.
Yeah.
Um, I hate it for the people that have to live close to them
Yeah.
and look at them every day. So what I hear from the people when I'm not talking to them is no one likes them. No one's a
Mm.
fan of them. Obviously, when it comes to property rights, we want to allow people to be able to have control in what they do on their property. However, we still need to be conscious of our neighbors and what that does to them.
Mhm.
And so obviously that's again, we don't want to get back to government regulations necessarily, but I think when it comes to affecting the local communities and the
Yeah.
local neighbors that we have, we need to be conscious of that and make decisions that don't allow our neighbors to kind of impact our way of life over here.
Yeah.
So it's I'm very glad that the mandatoriums were put in place now. Unfortunately, it was not done soon enough in Carroll County to stop that.
Yeah.
Even
I
though
remember
we
though, wasn't what Carroll County was in the news about this quite a bit like a year or two ago, weren't they?
They
Oh.
were. Unfortunately, the people of Carroll County, there was, I know, between 2 to 3 thousand that signed the petitions to try to stop it
Hmm.
and had the quorum court to vote against them. Unfortunately, some of those on the quorum court didn't want to listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough. Um, well, that's certainly a lesson to be learned regarding contacting your quorum court and really getting involved and holding them accountable because
Yeah.
they're on the ballot too. So
Correct.
I want to talk about House District 6. As I mentioned, you're in a runoff. I think we talked about there were four in the beginning, but then one never actually filed. Then there were three of you, and now you have the runoff, early voting beginning the 24th. As you go around and talk to voters, one, what are you hearing from them the most? And then how are you contrasting yourself from your opponent when you talk to these voters?
I would say the biggest concern I'm hearing from people, honestly, is cost of living. Boone and Carroll County, we have a lot of retirees, a lot of elderly, and even people of my age, obviously, that are raising
Yeah.
children and raising families. That the biggest concern is cost of living these days. Obviously, certain things like property taxes. I'm very happy to see that we recently in the legislature they took away the grocery tax. I think that was a great
Mhm.
step, but I think we can do more again with getting back to the state income taxes, property taxes. We could eliminate those where
Yeah.
possible. But I think that's just one of the biggest concerns for everybody right now is just the cost of living in this state. So I would say, when it comes to kind of what separates me and contrasts me from my opponent, I would, my opponent, he's a good young man. I don't have anything bad to say about Hunter. What I would say, I think what sets us apart is the life experiences that I have versus him. Like I said, I moved out of home and bought my own house when I was 21 years old, got married when I was 21. I've been working full time in different industries since I was 18 years old, right after high school. I've raised a family, still raising a family, and have two businesses in the community here. So when it comes to life experiences, I remember a time early on when I was at FedEx, I was appointed to a supervisor role, kind of around that 21 years of age as well. Um, a lot of that was because of my work ethic and because I was just able to get things done. But unfortunately for me, looking back, I can see where at that time, obviously I was supervising over employees that were older than I was, that had
Mhm.
families. And it was difficult for me at times to grasp and understand what they were dealing with at home. What you
Mhm.
deal with at home affects obviously how you work during the day sometimes,
Yeah.
whether it's sick children, whether it's trouble with your marriage, whether it's how are
Yeah.
we paying our bills this month,
Hmm.
um, those kind of things. As a young man, it was difficult to understand because I hadn't lived those experiences myself. So I think looking at my opponent, that's one thing I can definitely set myself apart is I have now lived that life. I
Hmm.
have more life experience than him. I'm also willing to say, hey, I'm not an expert when it comes to everything in this state. There are people out there that are more knowledgeable than me, that have more experience than I do. And I think we need to listen to them. We don't need to laugh and shake our heads at them when they try to bring up
Yeah.
a very valid point or a concern to us. We need to listen and hear them out. And when it comes time to vote, that's how we need to vote. We need to vote how we're representing the people of our county, of our district. It's not, I'm not asking to be sent to Little Rock just to fill my needs. I, I've said this before. I'm not a politician, and I'm not looking to have a career as a politician. But I've seen how things in this nation have kind of the direction it's going, and it's not in a way that kind of leads back to the foundation and the values that we were built on.
Yeah.
So I think at this time we've got enough politicians in place. We need more everyday Americans and Arkansans that can go and make decisions based on what truly affects the people in this state and this district. So that's how I would say I'd kind of set myself apart.
Awesome. And you have racked up some endorsements. I know that Representative Harlan Brough, is that correct?
Correct.
That
Yes,
he's
ma'am.
endorsed you. You've got gun owners, Arkansas Right to Life, Conduit Freedom Caucus, National Rifle Association. So it's really neat just to see the support that you have there and then your experience. Really appreciate hearing that. As I mentioned earlier, early voting begins Tuesday, March 24th, and
Yes.
it goes through the 30th. The runoff election day is March 31st. I think that you would probably agree. Runoff races are typically just about getting your people back out.
Yes.
And so, right now, what is your game plan from now until the 31st, and what would you want people to know?
Yeah, so our game plan is to try to reach as many voters as we can, obviously, and let them know about the runoff, obviously, first and foremost.
Yeah,
Too many times we've seen in the past that, your numbers can drop drastically from your early votes or from your first election to your runoff, sometimes nearly in half or more. So
yeah,
it is very important that if you want to have a voice in this race, that you get back out and vote. Especially if you're supporting us, we would love to have you back out
yes.
and have you, cast your vote for us. We feel like we are qualified for this position. We feel like we're doing it for the right reasons. So, yes, it's very important. We are knocking as many doors as we can. Obviously, I'm sorry, but we are sending out more mailers and more text messages. So I do apologize for
Okay.
that. But it's important to try to reach as many people as we can to get them back out. I
Mhm.
know I know everybody is sick of those and tired of those, but hopefully understand that we're just trying to get you information about ourselves. We're trying to help you understand where we stand and what we believe so that you can make an educated decision regarding this race. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My phone number is on everything that I send out. If you reach out, I promise I will call you back. So those are just ways we're knocking on as many doors as we can. We got a lot of family and friends that are helping us do that as well. So we're just trying to get out there and just make sure everybody knows that there's still another vote to get out and cast.
All right. Well, Cody, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to Conduit and about this race. And we wish you all the best come March 31st.
Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate your support and everything that you guys have done for us. I thank you all for the voice that you give for everyone and how you make sure that our citizens are aware of the situations that are going on in our state.
Thank you, Cody. Talk soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.